When it comes to tanking, you have 3 jobs. Number 1, you gotta stay alive. Number 2, you gotta generate threat. And number 3, boss or just mob positioning. Let's talk a little bit about each of those, but we're gonna focus on boss positioning. First of all, of course, you have to stay alive, because if you're not alive, you're not taking anything other than the floor. And staying alive is a combination of healers able to keep you up, but also selecting the correct gear for the situation. Hard-hitting boss requires chunkier gear. Struggling healers, maybe they're not as geared, requires you to maybe put on chunkier gear than you might have had to do in the past with stronger healers. And staying alive also is, of course, within your own control with fast reflexes for last stand or a life-giving gem, or maybe it's using a tuber or something to stay alive, some sort of cooldown, shield wall, whatever. It's a given that you have to generate threat to beat the tank. Otherwise, the tank's going to be a DPS warrior or a mage or someone.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the
tank now. And they don't want to be the tank. Popping recklessness?
big papa.
Put a shield on if you get aggro.
Turn undead if you can, the extra ones. Finish the boss.
Dude, I'm so high on threat. I'm gonna die. Ah! Now, it's not terribly difficult to have good threat as long as you have the proper gear to support it, and you're just literally pushing Bloodthirst every 6 seconds and spamming Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, and, you know, hit Sunder or Revenge in between that. It's very easy. But to do it while moving, that's where some of the nuance and skill comes into play. And that brings us to our third point, which is positioning the boss. Because not only do you need to know how to position the boss, both how and where, you might know theoretically where the boss has to go, but in practice struggle to move it, because sometimes, you know, they've got the hitbox and you're trying to drag it, and it's like, I cut the corner too close and now it's not where I wanted it. I was hoping it would be here, but it's not. Now it's over there and it's cockeyed. And you also have to move it into position while DPSing and pumping that threat. It's kind of like driving a car and playing the piano. You know, you gotta steer the boss, but you gotta keep on pushing the buttons. And so that's what I'm going to teach you how to do in this video. Sorry for the long intro. We could have just jumped right into it, but I needed to make this video long enough to get 2 ads to play. I'm just kidding. Let's quickly talk about the basics of movement, right? When we're jumping in the air, we can do movements of the character, right? So I could jump in the air and I could spin, turn around behind me 180 and then back, right? So like I could be running, and people do this as like a druid or a hunter. They'll be running, then they turn and attack, or they could be strafing and then they turn and attack, turn and attack. A rogue could be running, turn, gouge, whatever the case may be, and then still land facing the direction they wanted to go. Now, you never want to turn your back to a mob, right? So like, this is a caster, but if I'm running, turning my back, and he's giving me back shots, I cannot block, dodge, or parry, and that's just not good. I might get dazed. 5% of the time, when you're being hit from the back, you might get dazed. You don't want to get dazed as a tank. Sometimes we can use those principles to attack while moving, right? Because let's say I need to move backwards. We'll just use this wolf for an example. When I'm in the air, I can take my finger off of the S key, right? When I'm in the air, I could hit, you know, Bloodthirst. I'm in the air, I can hit a different button. I'm in the air, I can queue up a Heroic Strike. I'm in the air, I can hit another button. So I can be pressing my buttons while I'm in the air, because when you move and you jump, you stay moving until you land. And so we know we need to move as a tank. We can press buttons while we're in the air. Now just keep in mind that sometimes what that does is it might possibly make the boss move a little bit weird, and there's a danger when doing that on Globulus because it might the boss might catch up and over move. Sometimes the boss will like run past you when it catches up, and then it's facing the wrong way. It doesn't happen too often, but it's worth being worried about. So this is the boss I was talking about. This is Globulus. What he's going to do is periodically do this poison spray, and anyone hit by that will summon one ad. So he does it on me, and it should only hit the main tank, and that's no problem. But you see all those poison clouds on the ground? I also need to move the boss because of the poison clouds. If I move in a weird way and the melee run through him and eat his asshole, or if I do something really bad and he kind of like turns around and faces the melee, it could be a wipe. There's another way to move backwards, and that's with another keybind. So you could put a keybind on your mouse and you can move backwards while, pressing your buttons. So if we're going to do that on this scorpion here, if I need to move back, I can tap my backward movement key. I don't necessarily want to do too big of a movement. See how it creates a big gap? I'll stop attacking for a second. Sometimes if you do a big movement, the thing is going to not all the time, but it sort of pauses. See? And we want fluid movement, so I would be just tapping back while pressing my buttons, getting into position. It's a little bit tricky to steer like this. It takes practice. So let's just discuss how are we going to pull like this Drake here, and we're going to use this tree and the shadow as a mark. So let's just say I want to stand here, and the boss will be here, right? What I need to do is, move it. I need to get it in line, first of all, with the tree, and then pull it into place. It seems maybe basic to most people, but if I was to just go straight on an angle and try and pull it in position, I'm in the position I want it to be in, but you can see that the boss is not exactly how it was before. And I can move over here, but now my position is, instead of being right where my mouse is, it's over here, right? So sometimes we have to take a wider turn to get the boss into that specific position. I'm thinking about bringing a boss into a doorway, somewhere tight. There's not a ton of bosses you have to do this for, but it does happen. Now, another thing we can do sometimes, because sometimes bosses get cockeyed, like Cro-Magus or whatnot. Sometimes you can push a boss backwards. So if I walk into the hitbox, right, our circle, this circle here is the hitbox, I can walk into it, and if I go slowly, I will enter its personal space, and I should be able to push him back. There we go, we push him back. Get back! Back, I say! If you run straight through a mob, it'll turn very fast. Whereas if you, let's say I'm back here and I have to do this big arcing motion. If I do this big arcing motion, what I would be doing is like tanking, the boss like this. I'd be moving, running really far, and then I've turned the boss. But if we go closer, I could flip the boss very quickly. So that's just worth noting. Also, on Kel'Thuzad, let's say this dead Drake is Kel'Thuzad, and a void zone spawns under me. Right? Let's say a void zone spawns under me. A common thing for tanks to do, and it's not entirely wrong, but what they'll commonly do is just move backwards out of the void zone, and now the boss shifts, and then everyone else has to shift with it. But what if the tank, when the void zone spawns, if the void zone spawns, and instead of you moving the boss to the other, and because sometimes what happens is multiple void zones spawn under the boss, and it's just like, oh, I gotta move for the void zone. Oh, I gotta move for the void zone, and now you're running out of runway, and so what you can do, and you have to be careful not to enter the hitbox or it'll push the boss. I discussed how to push a boss. You can carefully move around that hitbox and go to a different quadrant. And the melee DPS, they can run away. They can leave, but you keep the boss stationary. It's like a more high skill level thing.
The movement here gets a little bit erratic. People kind of get freaked out. You can see circles like, how do I get back in? Now there's a shadow fissure. So what I did there was I moved to the left. Usually tanks will just backpedal and move the boss. You can do that, but what if the tank groups get several shadow fissures in a row? Then you're going to be backed into a corner of the room. I prefer, and it's not always easy, but I prefer when I'm tanking to move to the left. What you have to do is just make sure, or the right, you just have to make sure you don't go into the hitbox or leave the hitbox. Like if you outrange, you're going to make the boss move in a weird way.
So we can see all the different things I was talking about before as I pull Fire Maw. So I'm jumping while pressing my abilities, and then I need to flip him, so I just run directly through him, and then I slowly backpedal and strafe left and right to get him into that perfect position. Here's my protege, and you know, nothing wrong with a new person learning to tank. They kind of mess up, you know, and so they try again, and thankfully they push the boss by accident, and it gets into position. Here they are pulling Flame Gore, and you know, I've talked to them multiple times and still working on having them not have their back to the boss, but here they are, they're taking those back shots. And they're getting the boss into position here, and we're gonna see a couple things happen here. It's easy to get knocked out of position a little bit with this boss with the wing buffets, because as you see here, there was a taunt resist, and so he got knocked a little bit to his right, and now I'm instructing him to strafe, and he's going to overcorrect instead of just tap, 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 tap. Sorry for the Discord pings, by the way. Tap, 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 tap. But he just moves really big. Now he's inside the hitbox, and what's that going to do? It's going to push the boss back, and the melee move in time, or that breath would have killed them if they didn't have a cloak on. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a sub and a comment. Catch me live on my Twitch channel, Dwarf Lord TV, to connect with me or say hi to me in game on any of my characters. Dwarf Lord out.
And they say that the Dwarf Lord could save us. I'm not gonna pave here and wait. I'll hold on to the beard of the Dwarf Lord. Watch as we heroic leap away.